The desperate call, the twin sons of Ethros Prime, cast their golden light across the crystal gardens where Commander Lyra Vashan walked among the singing flowers. The Zephyrian people had cultivated these beautiful plants for over 3,000 years, each bloom producing melodic tones that created natural symphonies throughout their cities. Lyra paused to listen to a particularly complex harmony when her communication device chimed with an urgent priority signal. "Commander Vashan, please report to the Planetary Defense Center immediately," came the voice of her aide, Kes Morvain. The usual musical quality of Zephyrian speech was replaced by something Lyra had never heard before: fear. Lyra's silver skin shimmered with concern as she activated her personal transport pod. The journey through the floating city of New Harmony normally filled her with pride at her people's achievements. But today she noticed something different. Citizens moved with hurried steps, their naturally luminous skin flickering with anxiety. Patterns. News of the approaching danger had begun to spread despite the Council's attempts to maintain calm. The defense center buzzed with activity unlike anything in Zephyrian history. For 8 centuries, their world had known perfect peace. Their most advanced weapons were asteroid deflection systems designed to protect their planet from space debris. The concept of warfare was so foreign to their culture that they had to study ancient historical archives just to understand what their long-range sensors were detecting. "Commander, thank the stars you're here." Elder Consular Thane Zarian approached with his usually graceful movements, now sharp with urgency. "The situation has deteriorated rapidly. Our deep space monitors have confirmed the worst possible scenario." Lyra followed the Elder to the central display chamber, where a 3-dimensional map of their star system showed ominous red markers advancing toward their world. "How many ships, Elder?" 700 vessels of unknown configuration, came the reply from Chief Sensor Operator Vex Halion. "They're traveling in perfect battle formation at speeds that should be impossible for ships of that size. Our computer estimates they'll reach our system in 47 hours. The weight of those words settled over the command center like a suffocating blanket. Lyra studied the tactical display, trying to comprehend the scale of what approached their peaceful world. Each red dot represented a ship capable of destroying entire cities, and there were so many of them that they formed a dark cloud on their sensors. "Have we attempted communication?" Lyra asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Elder Zarian's skin dimmed with sorrow. "We transmitted on all known frequencies in 17 different languages. We offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, even tribute if they would leave us in peace. Their response was ... disturbing." The main screen flickered to life, showing a recording of a massive reptilian creature with scales that seemed to absorb light itself. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding stone, mixed with the screams of the dying. "Weak flesh creatures. Of the garden world, I am Supreme Commander Vexter of the Shadowclaw Imperium. Your pitiful offers of friendship disgust us. We do not trade with prey. We do not make agreements with food. In 2 cycles, we will arrive to claim your world and add your species to our conquest tally. Use your remaining time to prepare your people for efficient harvesting." The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian command staff staring at a blank screen in horror. Lyra felt her skin cycle through colors of fear and determination as she processed the implications. These creatures didn't want resources or territory. They wanted to completely destroy the Zephyrian people. "What do we know about this Shadowclaw Imperium?" Lyra asked. Senior Analyst Wraith Corvus stepped forward, his typically calm demeanor cracked with exhaustion. "I've been researching them for the past 18 hours, Commander. The records are terrifying. In the last century alone, they've conquered 43 worlds across 12 different sectors. They leave no survivors, no records, nothing but dead planets stripped of all valuable resources." He activated a series of holographic displays showing the aftermath of Shadowclaw attacks. Once thriving worlds now appeared as barren rocks floating in space, their surfaces scarred by weapons that could crack continents. They're not just conquerors, Commander. They're exterminators. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft humming of the defense center's equipment. Finally, Elder Zarian spoke what everyone was thinking. Our planetary shields can withstand most natural disasters, but they were never designed for military assault. Our manufacturing facilities produce art, music, and scientific instruments, not weapons of war. Chief Engineer Lynn Asteros looked up from her technical displays with grim news. I've run every simulation possible. Elder, even if we converted our entire industrial capacity to weapon production immediately, we couldn't produce enough defensive systems in 47 hours to stop even a dozen of their ships, let alone 700. Lyra moved to the observation window that looked out over their beautiful city. Below, Zephyrian families were going about their daily lives, unaware that in less than 2 days, everything they had ever known would be destroyed. Children were learning music in floating classroom pods. Artists were creating sculptures that defied gravity, and scientists were conducting experiments that pushed the boundaries of knowledge. All of it would be gone. There is one option we haven't discussed, Elder Zarian said quietly. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at him. The Elder's ancient skin showed patterns of deep contemplation mixed with desperate hope. The distress beacon, he continued. We could transmit a general SOS to all inhabited systems within range. Perhaps some species with military capability might. Elder, interrupted Chief Analyst Wraith, no civilization has ever successfully defended against the Shadowclaw Imperium. Even the warrior species of the Krolex Federation were eliminated in less than a week. What could we possibly offer other species that would make them risk their own fleets against such overwhelming odds? Lyra turned from the window, her decision crystallizing in her mind. We offer them the truth. We tell them that the Shadowclaws won't stop with us. These creatures will continue expanding, consuming world after world until nothing remains. Today it's Ethros Prime. Tomorrow it could be their home planets. Elder Zarian nodded slowly. And if no one responds, then at least we will have tried. Everything possible, Lyra replied. I won't let our people face extinction without exhausting every option, no matter how remote. The preparation of the distress signal took 6 hours of careful work. The message needed to be translated into dozens of languages and broadcast on frequencies that could reach across multiple star systems. Lyra personally recorded the final version, choosing her words carefully to convey both the desperate nature of their situation and the broader threat the Shadowclaws represented. To any species receiving this transmission, I am Commander Lyra, Vashin of the Zephyrian people on Ethros Prime. We face imminent destruction from a force known as the Shadowclaw Imperium. 700 warships approach our world with the stated intention of complete extermination. We are a peaceful people with no military capabilities. We have never harmed another species, never taken what wasn't freely given, never sought conquest or dominion over others. She paused, gathering her strength for the next part. But this message isn't just about saving us. The Shadowclaws have destroyed 43 worlds in the last century. They will not stop with our planet. If they succeed here, they will grow, stronger and more confident. Eventually, they will come for your worlds too. We understand that asking strangers to risk their lives for us is beyond any reasonable request, but we have nowhere else to turn. If there are any among you who believe that innocent people deserve to live, if there are any who understand that evil triumphs when good beings do nothing, please, help us. The message was transmitted on all available frequencies, racing across space at light speed toward distant stars. Some transmissions would reach nearby systems within hours. Others wouldn't arrive at inhabited worlds for days or weeks. The Zephyrians could only wait and hope that somewhere among the vast galactic community, someone would care enough to answer. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. The Shadowclaw fleet continued its relentless advance, while Zephyrian engineers worked frantically to strengthen their planetary defenses. Children were evacuated to underground shelters, though everyone knew these measures would only delay the inevitable by minutes or hours at best. Then, 31 hours after the distress signal was sent, something impossible happened. A response came from a star system that wasn't in any of their navigation databases, from a species they had never heard of before. Zephyrian vessel, this is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Earth Defense Coalition. We have received your distress call and are preparing to render assistance. Our fleet will arrive in your system in approximately 14 hours. Hold your position and maintain hope. Humanity is coming. The communication center erupted in confused chatter. Elder Zarian looked at Chief Analyst Wraith with bewilderment. Humanity? Earth? Are these species in our databases? Wraith worked frantically at his console, running searches through every available record. Nothing, Elder. No reference to humans or Earth in any galactic registry. They're completely unknown. Unknown species don't typically possess interstellar fleets, Chief Engineer Asteros observed. And he said they would arrive in 14 hours. That means they're already traveling at speeds comparable to the Shadowclaws. A new transmission arrived, this one from a different human voice. Commander Vashan, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Human Expeditionary Force. We're transmitting our fleet composition and estimated arrival time. We want you to know exactly what's coming to help you. The data package that followed left. The Zephyrians staring at their displays in shock. The human fleet consisted of 230 vessels of various classes, massive battleships, nimble cruisers, swift destroyers, and clouds of smaller fighter craft. But what stunned the Zephyrians wasn't the number of ships, it was how quickly this unknown species had organized and launched such a massive force. They received our distress call 31 hours ago, Lyra said slowly, and they've already assembled and launched a fleet of over 200 ships. That's not just impressive logistics. That's military preparedness on a scale we've never seen. Elder Zarian studied the human fleet composition with growing amazement. Look at these ship classifications. They have vessels designed specifically for different types of combat: planetary bombardment, ship-to-ship fighting, atmospheric engagement, ground support. These humans aren't just warriors, they're professional soldiers. As the hours ticked by, more information about the approaching human fleet filtered through communications. The humans were maintaining strict radio discipline, but they're few. Transmissions revealed beings who spoke of battle tactics with casual familiarity. They discussed weapon deployments, formation strategies, and combat logistics like teachers talking about mathematics. Complex subjects made simple through extensive experience. Commander, reported Chief Sensor Operator Vex, I'm picking up the human fleet on long-range sensors. They single quotes re ... They're traveling in perfect formation, despite their massive size. Each ship knows exactly where it belongs. Lyra watched the sensor display as a new group of contacts appeared at the edge of their system. The human ships moved with a precision that spoke of countless hours of training and coordination. Even more impressive, they were arriving exactly when Admiral Kane had promised they would. The Shadowclaw fleet detected the human arrival as well. For the first time since beginning their approach, the enemy ships altered their formation. Supreme Commander Vexter had encountered unexpected resistance before, but never from a completely unknown species responding to someone else's distress call. Unknown vessels, came Vexter's transmission on an open channel. You are interfering with a legitimate conquest operation. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed, along with the prey species you seek to protect. The human response came from Admiral Kane, and his voice carried a tone that made even the peaceful Zephyrians feel a chill of anticipation. Shadowclaw, Commander, this is Admiral Marcus Kane of the human fleet. The species you call prey are now under our protection. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces from this system. This is your only warning. Vexter's laughter echoed across the communication channels. Foolish creatures, do you know who you dare to threaten? I am Supreme Commander Vexter. I have crushed 43 worlds beneath my claws. Your pathetic fleet will be scattered like dust before the might of the Shadowclaw Imperium. There was a pause before Admiral Kane responded, and when he did, his voice was calm, but carried an undertone that made Commander Lyra's skin ripple with instinctive recognition of a predator. Commander Vexter, you've made a fundamental error in judgment. You see, we humans come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We learned to fight not because we wanted to, but because everything on our planet was trying to eat us, poison us, or crush us to death. We became very good at fighting because the alternative was extinction. The transmission continued, and now other human voices joined in, each captain adding their own message. This is Captain Rodriguez. We've studied your previous conquests. Vexter, you're very good at killing peaceful species who don't fight back. Let's see how you handle a species that fights back harder than you do. This is Captain Thompson of the battleship Relentless. We've got some new military technologies we've been wanting to test against a worthy opponent. Thank you for volunteering. This is Captain Singh of the Destroyer Squadron 7. Fair warning, Commander. Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure you never threaten anyone ever again. As these transmissions filled the space between the two fleets, Commander, Lyra realized that the Zephyrians were about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. They weren't just watching a battle between two military forces. They were seeing what happened when a species that had never known anything but peace encountered a species that had never known anything but struggle. The 30-minute deadline expired, and Supreme Commander Vexter gave his response by ordering his entire fleet to attack formation. 700 Shadowclaw warships arranged themselves into their traditional overwhelming assault pattern, preparing to crush the smaller human force through sheer numbers and firepower. But as the human fleet moved to meet them, even the inexperienced Zephyrians could see that something was different about these defenders. The human ships didn't spread out to cover more space or form defensive lines to absorb the enemy attack. Instead, they formed tight, aggressive formations that seemed designed not to defend, but to attack with devastating efficiency. All stations, this is Admiral Kane, came the final human transmission before the battle began. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy who deserves the right to exist without fear. Show them what humans do when someone threatens the innocent. Show them why they call us Deathworlders. When Deathworlders fight, the space above Ethros Prime erupted into chaos as two very different philosophies of warfare collided in a spectacular display of fire and fury. Supreme Commander Vexter watched from his flagship's command deck as his 700 warships surged forward in their traditional overwhelming charge. The Shadowclaw way of battle was simple and had proven effective against every species they had encountered. Advance in massive numbers, absorb whatever damage the enemy could inflict, then crush them through sheer overwhelming force. But the humans were not behaving like any enemy the Shadowclaws had faced before. Instead of forming defensive lines or attempting to retreat, the human fleet split into multiple smaller groups that moved with precision and purpose. Each group seemed to know exactly where it was going and what it intended to do when it got there. Sir, reported Vexter as tactical officer, the human vessels are not following standard defensive protocols. They appear to be hunting us. Captain Elena Rodriguez piloted her fighter squadron through the debris field of a destroyed asteroid, using the floating rocks as cover while she studied the approaching Shadowclaw formation. Her tactical display showed the enemy ships maintaining their tight formation, each vessel following the ship in front of it without deviation. It was an impressive display of discipline, but it was also predictable. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader," she transmitted to her pilots. "The enemy is maintaining formation discipline, which means they're not adapting to threats. We're going to use that against them. Target the command ships in each formation group. Once their leaders are gone, the rest will be easier to handle." "Copy." "Dragon Leader," came the response from her wingman, Lieutenant James Park. "Question: how do we identify the command ships?" Rodriguez smiled grimly as she studied the enemy formation. "Look for the biggest, most decorated ships in the center of each group. These Shadowclaws are proud warriors. Their commanders won't hide in the back." The human fighter squadrons struck like surgical instruments, diving through the Shadowclaw. Formations with maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. Where most species would attack in straight lines, the humans twisted and spiraled through three-dimensional space, making themselves almost impossible to target, while delivering precise strikes against key enemy vessels. Commander Lyra Vashon watched the battle from her observation deck, her skin cycling through colors of amazement and disbelief. The human fighters moved like they were dancing through space, each pilot seeming to anticipate not only enemy movements, but also the actions of their own squadron mates. It was coordination on a level that shouldn't have been possible. Asterisk. "How are they doing that?" asked Chief Engineer Asteros, staring at the tactical display. "Their fighters are operating in perfect synchronization while performing maneuvers that would tear apart most spacecraft." Chief Analyst Wraith had been monitoring human communication channels, and his expression was one of growing understanding. "They're not just coordinating through their radio systems," he reported. "Listen to their transmissions. They're constantly sharing information, updating each other on enemy positions, discussing tactical changes in real time. They fight like a single organism with multiple bodies." The first major engagement came when Admiral Kane's battleship group met the central Shadowclaw formation head-on. The alien vessels opened fire with massive energy weapons designed to melt through the strongest armor plating. But the human ships didn't try to absorb the damage. Instead, they moved in complex patterns that made them difficult targets, while returning fire with weapons that seemed to violate several laws of physics. "What kind of projectiles are those?" Elder Zarian asked as he watched human weapons tear through Shadowclaw armor like it was made of paper. "Kinetic impactors," Chief Engineer Asteros replied after analyzing the weapon signatures. "But they're accelerated to velocities I didn't think were possible. The humans are using magnetic field generators to launch solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed." Supreme Commander Vexter felt the first stirrings of concern as he watched. 3 of his heavy cruisers simply disappear under human fire. The small human projectiles struck with such tremendous force that they completely destroyed ships designed to withstand plasma bombardment. But what disturbed him more was the tactical precision of the human attacks. They weren't just shooting at his ships randomly. They were targeting specific systems with surgical accuracy. "All vessels, modify attack pattern 7, Vexter commanded. "Spread formation and engage individual human ships. We will overwhelm them with numbers." But as the Shadowclaw fleet spread out, they discovered that the humans had anticipated this tactic as well. The moment the alien formation became less dense, human destroyers emerged from concealment behind planetary debris and struck at the now isolated Shadowclaw vessels. Each human ship seemed to know exactly which enemy target to engage and how to position itself for maximum advantage. Captain David Chun commanded the human destroyer Indomitable and had been watching the Shadowclaw tactical patterns since the battle began. When he saw the enemy formation spreading out, he knew exactly what to do. "Helm, bring us about to intercept the enemy's third wing," he ordered. "Weapons, prepare torpedo spread, pattern Delta. Engineering, I need maximum power to engines and shields." The Indomitable accelerated toward a group of 12 Shadowclaw vessels that had broken off from the main formation. To the alien commanders, it looked like a single human ship was foolishly attacking a superior force. But as they moved to surround and destroy the destroyer, they discovered their error. The human ship launched a spread of guided torpedoes that split apart as they approached their targets. Each torpedo divided into multiple smaller warheads that struck different systems on the same ship simultaneously. While the Shadowclaw vessels were dealing with the torpedo attack, the Indomitable's main guns opened fire with devastating precision. "Target their engine sections first," Sean ordered his weapons officer. "A ship that can't maneuver is a dead ship." The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, all 12 Shadowclaw vessels were either destroyed or crippled, while the Indomitable had suffered only minor damage to its forward shields. Across the battlefield, similar scenarios were playing out as human ships used superior tactics and technology to defeat numerically superior enemies. But the most shocking development came when the battle moved to the planet's surface. Despite their success in space, some Shadowclaw forces had managed to land on Ethros Prime and were threatening the civilian population centers. The humans responded by deploying ground forces that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about planetary warfare. Sergeant Michael Torres led his Marine unit through the crystal gardens of New Harmony, tracking a group of Shadowclaw soldiers that had taken Zephyrian civilians hostage. The aliens had barricaded themselves in a cultural center, confident that their superior size and strength would intimidate any rescue attempt. "Control, this is Ground Team Alpha," Torres reported through his radio. "We have visual on the target building. Estimated 40 enemy combatants. Unknown number of civilian hostages." "Copy, Ground Team Alpha," came the reply from the human command ship. "Rules of engagement. Protect civilians at all costs. Use whatever tactics necessary to neutralize the threat." The Shadowclaw warriors inside the building were typical of their species. Massive reptilian creatures standing over 9 feet tall, with natural armor plating and claws that could tear through steel. They had positioned themselves throughout the building, using the captured Zephyrians as shields against any potential attack. "Soft-shell creatures," growled the Shadowclaw leader when he detected human movement outside. "Come face us with honor if you dare. We will feast on your bones." Sergeant Torres smiled grimly as he studied the building's layout through his tactical scanner. The aliens were thinking in terms of direct confrontation, but humans had learned long ago that the best way to fight a stronger enemy was to avoid fighting fair. "Team 2, take position at the rear entrance," he ordered. "Team 3, get ready to provide covering fire from the east side. Team 4, prepare smoke deployment. We're going to show these lizards how humans handle hostage situations." The human assault began with the deployment of microscopic drones that infiltrated the building through the ventilation system. These tiny machines mapped the interior, identified the locations of all hostiles and civilians, and began releasing a gas that would affect the Shadowclaw nervous system without harming the Zephyr. High ANS dot as the aliens began to feel disoriented. The human teams struck from multiple directions simultaneously. They used advanced optical camouflage to approach undetected, then employed non-lethal weapons to incapacitate the Shadowclaws without risking civilian casualties. The entire operation took less than 15 minutes. Commander Lyra Vashon arrived at the scene just as the last Shadowclaw soldier was being secured. She watched in amazement as human medics treated both the rescued Zephyrian civilians and captured alien warriors with equal care. "Your people fought with incredible precision," she told Sergeant Torres. "But I notice you chose to capture the enemies rather than kill them. Why?" Torres looked at the bound Shadowclaw warriors and back at the Zephyrian commander. "Because we're not monsters, ma'am. These soldiers were following orders, just like we are. The real enemy is the system that sent them here, not the individuals caught up in it." This philosophy extended throughout the human military response. Even in the heat of battle, human forces made every effort to disable rather than destroy enemy ships when possible. They targeted weapon systems and engines instead of life support and crew quarters. When Shadowclaw vessels surrendered, they were accepted into protective custody rather than destroyed. Supreme Commander Vexter found himself in an unprecedented situation. In less than 6 hours of combat, his invasion force had been reduced from 700 ships to fewer than 100. His ground forces had been systematically eliminated or captured. Most shocking of all, he was receiving surrender offers from the humans rather than demands for his own surrender. "This is Admiral Kane to all Shadowclaw vessels," came the transmission. "Your invasion has failed. Your commander has led you into a battle you cannot win. But you don't have to die for his mistakes. Any ship that powers down its weapons and submits to inspection will be allowed to leave this system safely. We're not interested in conquest. We're here to protect the innocent." The offer created chaos in the Shadowclaw fleet. These warriors had never encountered an enemy that offered mercy after achieving victory. Their entire culture was built around the concept that the strong dominated the weak, that victory meant total destruction of the defeated. The idea that an enemy would allow them to surrender and live was incomprehensible. "It's a trick," Vexter snarled to his remaining captains. "They want us to lower our defenses so they can destroy us more easily." But even as he spoke, Vexter could see evidence that contradicted his words. Human ships were actually escorting surrendering Shadowclaw vessels to safe zones, providing them with medical aid and supplies for their journey home. The humans were keeping their word about allowing surrenders. Captain Elena Rodriguez had returned to the human flagship after her successful fighter missions and was now serving as Admiral Kane's tactical advisor. She studied the remaining Shadowclaw forces on the strategic display, noting their confusion and internal communications. "Admiral, their command structure is breaking down," she reported. "Multiple ship captains are requesting permission to surrender, but their supreme commander is refusing to allow it. We might need to remove him from the equation if we want to save the rest of his people." Kane nodded grimly. "I was afraid of that. Some leaders would rather see their followers die than admit defeat. Target Vexter as flagship, but use precision strikes only. I want him disabled, not vaporized." The final engagement of the battle was a masterpiece of tactical precision. Human ships surrounded Vexter S flagship, systematically destroying its weapons, engines, and communication systems while leaving the crew quarters intact. The massive Shadowclaw vessel was reduced to a helpless hulk drifting in space, but its crew survived. With their supreme commander captured and their fleet scattered, the remaining Shadowclaw forces finally accepted the human offer of safe passage. One by one, the alien warships powered down their weapons and submitted to inspection before being escorted to the edge of the system. Commander Lyra Vashin stood in her command center, watching as the last Shadowclaw vessel departed under human escort. The battle was over. Her people were safe. But more than that, they had witnessed something that would change their understanding of the galaxy forever. "Commander," said Elder Zarian, his voice filled with wonder, "these humans, they're not like any species we've encountered before. They possess the military capability to conquer half the galaxy, but they choose to use it only to protect others. They fight with fury, but they show mercy to the defeated. How is such a thing possible? Lyra watched as human ships moved through. The system, conducting rescue operations and providing aid to damaged vessels, regardless of which side they had fought for. I think, Elder, we've just learned the difference between warriors and soldiers. Warriors fight for glory, for conquest, for dominance. Soldiers fight for something greater than themselves. Admiral Kane's final transmission to the Zephyrian. People summarized the human philosophy perfectly. Commander Vashin, the immediate threat to your world has been eliminated. However, we'd like to propose a longer-term solution. The galaxy has too many Shadowclaw-type threats, and not enough people willing to stand up to them. We'd like to invite your people to join a defensive alliance, not to conquer or dominate, but to ensure that peaceful species can remain peaceful. As the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind a small garrison to help establish the new defensive alliance, Commander Lyra Vashin realized that the Zephyrians had been rescued by something more than just another military force. They had been saved by a species that had learned to channel the violence of their harsh homeworld into a force for protecting the innocent. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in galactic history, a species had proven that it was possible to be both strong enough to fight the monsters and civilized enough to choose not to become monsters themselves. The humans had shown that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary and when mercy was the greater victory. In the years that followed, the story of the Battle of Ethros Prime would spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring other species to stand up against oppression and showing that even the most peaceful civilizations could find protectors among the stars. The humans had answered a desperate SOS from strangers and, in doing so, had changed the course of galactic history forever. Asterisk.